Hello and welcome to Ode to Games. I'm Kevin Valleen, joined alongside Logan Plant. How you doing, Logan?
I missed you, Kevin. It's been a long layoff.
It has been, yeah. It's been a couple of weeks. Zach's also here too. How you doing, Zach?
I also missed Kevin. I didn't miss Logan. I still
Wow,
talk to him regularly.
dang the shade.
All right, Kevin. No offense,
Yeah,
but you're a busy guy.
I am. Yeah, we've been off for a week. We were trying to figure out schedules. We were talking about that the last couple of weeks. That times may be changing, and they are a little bit. The day that this thing goes up changed for the first time in 160 episodes. We've been doing
Wow.
Fridays ever since episode 1, although, things have varied a little bit on random episodes, but for the most part it's been Fridays. But now it's going to be Thursdays. So
Woo!
so
Best
get
day
the
of the
clock
week.
set. Yeah, day before Friday. So get your clock set for that. For now, we are going Thursdays. So the times have changed from Friday to Thursday. So Ode to Games every Thursday. It's also 4 a.m. here, so
Yeah, I was gonna say I want to pull back the curtain a little bit. If you're watching the video version, you can see it is light out where Zach and I are. It's always dark and we have like lamps and lights on. I have much more energy right now. Kevin probably has significantly less. We've been recording at like 2 a.m. my time for the last year. Now we've shifted to 4 a.m. Kevin's time across the pond in Japan.
yeah.
So pretty different.
Yep. So I rolled out of bed about 20 minutes ago, and here I am recording.
So you going back to bed after the show, or are you up for the day?
We'll see how I'm feeling afterwards. Like right
Okay.
now, I could probably go back to bed, but we'll see in
Yeah.
an hour. Maybe I'll be up by then. I don't know.
Okay.
I got a
Alright.
decent amount of sleep. I went to bed at like 8, so
Nice.
I
Nice.
basically got a full night's sleep. Anyways,
Pretty
Well, we
good.
appreciate you shifting times because this is literally the only window the three of us can get together.
Yeah,
to do
we,
it. The show must go on.
did not have very many options,
No.
but we made it work. Anyways, let's get into the show. This week, we got a new game to talk about. Logan,
do.
how is MLB The Show? How is paying $70 for it when Xbox owners get it for free on Game Pass?
That part's not great, but the game's really fun. I like it quite a lot. I've played about 10 or so hours of it, I would say, since it came out. And yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. I think that I'm falling into kind of the same thing I always do with sports games, where I just goof around and don't take them very seriously. I've always been very dreadful at sports games. I suck at Madden, I suck at 2K, and I'm not very good at the show. So I've been messing around with the Stadium Creator,
How's that? I've been
which
curious
is
about that.
so good. It's so cool. There's so much detail to what you can do. If you put in like hours of meticulous work, you could make a gorgeous MLB stadium. There's different color seats, there's different size grandstands, there's like 20 different scoreboards, and most of them are taken from actual parks. So you can like pick your favorite one and put it in. There's like restaurants for the concourse, like burger places, pizza places, souvenir shops, lemonade stands that you can put out, which is just super cool. There's a lot of different options of like how the grass can be cut in the outfield, like it's so
Just have
detailed.
like a forest out there.
There's actually a lot of nature too that you can do. Like there's giant rock formations and things. You can customize a pretty wide area around the ballpark. So you could make a ballpark like in the middle of the woods. You could remove all the grandstands, put all these trees everywhere, and just have this Major League Baseball size field just in the middle of nowhere. There are parking lots, there's parking garages, there's escalators. Like, it's insane how detailed it is. It's super cool. I think that eventually I'll take some time to make a really good real stadium for like my custom team to play like a franchise season in. But for now, I'm just goofing around making just moronic stadiums. So not to get too deep into the baseball weeds, but I have a baseball park where right field is 270 feet to the
Okay.
foul pole.
Yeah.
And left field is 500 feet
Oh my
to the foul
God.
pole. So it is just this oval. To hit a home run to left field is dang near impossible. To hit it to right field, it's like almost all the time. And I've broken the game a couple times because you hit this ball that's like a really soft line drive, but it's a home run.
Yeah.
And it's like 30 feet out. And so the announcer is like, And that thing is crushed. It's way out of here. And it's not. It's like this lazy pop-up that would be an out in any real baseball stadium. So that's really funny. I also deleted all the grandstands, so there's nobody. And so when I hit this jack, and it's just silent. And then I was just like, and the crowd goes wild. It's like, no, they don't. And he's like, just during a normal commentating moment, he's like, lots of kids here at the ballpark today. I'm like, there's literally no one at the ballpark
There's
today.
zero people.
So I'm doing what I usually do, just messing around in these things, which is a lot of fun.
Are those dimensions the max and min that you can do?
This is the extreme.
500 and 270.
Yeah, and you can also make the wall 1 inch tall. So
Wait,
you can set like
What?
it's just a
Like-
streamer. Yeah, there's just no wall. It just ends. It's so funny looking.
So and
so I made
for
this...
robbing the home run, they just have to stand there.
Yeah, I made this one ballpark that it's every 10 feet, the wall is either 20 feet high or 1 inch high. So if you hit it at one point, it's just going to clang off the wall. If you hit it 5 feet to the right, it's just going to soar through the wall and be a home run.
Like a hole.
It's just, yeah, it's really fun to mess with the ballparks. It's only on Next Gen, the ballpark creator, and I was playing online with a friend who has the PS4 version, and I couldn't pick my custom ballpark.
Oh.
So I don't know anybody who has a Next Gen and has the game. So I don't know if I can share these stadiums with
That's
people yet,
unfortunate.
because I really want to. I'm guessing if he was playing on PS5 or Xbox Series X, we probably would have been able to. But that's super fun. Speaking of online play, to touch on that, I played 3 games with my friend, and 2 of them, full 9-inning games, really good online, really good netcode, no lag, awesome. Third game, we were running out of time, like, let's just play a quick 3-inning game. And it was the glitchiest mess I've almost ever experienced online. So you had in baseball, the guy who's going to hit next is standing by the dugout taking practice swings. He was just at second base, just standing there taking practice swings, ready to step into the box. You would have a base hit, and the ball would go up the middle, and you would see the center fielder warp 30 feet in and catch the ball. On my screen, it would say base hit. On his screen, it would say he was out. And so we're so do I have a guy on first base or not? It was just a mess, and it was really funny. I had one guy who batted 2 times in a row. It was Shohei Ohtani, and he hit 9th, and then he hit again. So he hit 2 times in a row. I got a hit with him the first time, but then it just didn't put him on base, and then he just strolled back into the batter's box.
Come back on in. Do it again.
Yeah, so that it's really fun. As for serious modes, I'm doing one called March to October, where you play 1 game a week, and then not real life week, in-game week, and you play the Sunday game, and depending on how well you do, that determines how well your team simulates in the rest of the week. So you play a full 162 game season, but you really only play 15 games. And then it's just momentum that simulates the rest of it. And it can throw you into important moments. Hey, it's the 7th inning and you've got the bases loaded down by 1. Do you want to jump in? You're like, yes, I do. So that's a really cool mode that doesn't take much time because you only play a few games. So still diving into it. I was just doing kind of the garbage that I always do in. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm glad that I picked it up.
I don't blame you messing around with the stadium creator. That sounds like a lot of fun to just make.
That's what pushed me over the edge
monstrosities.
To get it. Yeah, I made there's my grandstands. I made a park that has 270 into left and right, so it's just a baby ballpark, and I made the walls 1 inch, and I put the elevation at a mile high, so the ball just soars out of the park. And for my stands, I have 15 decks, it just goes to the sky. And then I built this really messy escalator thing that goes all the way up a mile high, and it just looks so stupid. But yeah, it's a ton of fun messing around in there, and I can't wait to see what people more patient and more skilled than I do in the stadium creator, because I think there's going to be some amazing things.
Yeah, that makes me miss the tycoon games that I used to play as a kid, like Zoo Tycoon or Roller Coaster Tycoon.
It's kind of like that, yeah.
The way you described it sounds very similar to that style of game, and they were always so much fun because you could just screw around so much.
Yeah, so maybe I'll upload some videos of my stadiums to our Twitter or something, so you can see them.
Yeah, I do want to see them. Does that game still have? I remember I played like MLB The Show 14 or 15 on PS3, and I remember they had like modes where you could do more like the nitty-gritty financial stuff with all of those, like with all of your concession stands and stuff. Do they still have that?
Oh,
like, I don't know if that,
I don't think so.
They pulled that.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything like that. There's still a lot I haven't explored. There's a mode where you like sign players to contracts and stuff, but nothing about like managing a ballpark. But that sounds awesome. That sounds really cool.
Because I remember like you could. It was more, just like the financials of stuff where you're adjusting like ticket prices and adjusting prices of like merch in the stores. And so I was wondering if that could be like, if that was still in there to have like a more interesting dynamic with ballparks you make. But
yeah, that would be really cool.
Maybe not. I don't know if that's in the
maybe next year if they keep
this
feature in there.
But
yeah, I'll have to check that out. I can look into that and see if that's a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's just fun to mess around. I have actually quite a few friends on the baseball side of my life that are getting this game, so it's been fun to have something to play with them, since I feel like people who play sports games don't play many other games, and that's kind of true with my friends who play sports games. So it's fun to have this to jump in.
Nice. All right. Do you want to hop into the news? I know we've been gone for a little while, so there's a couple of items that we need to discuss, and a couple of things that are pretty fresh too.
Yeah, I want to start with Ace Attorney. I am so thrilled. Great Ace Attorney Chronicles is announced for Switch, PS4, and Steam. It's coming July 27th, physical version in North America, which is extremely exciting. So this continues my weird curse of I finally start playing something and then they remaster it. So I'm really happy that it turned out that way. But yeah, it's a double pack. These two games came out only in Japan on 3DS in 2015 and 2017. They are some of the only Ace Attorney games to never make it over here. And now they're coming. And first Ace Attorney in North America in 5 years. Fall of 2016 was the last one. So I'm very excited. Kevin, I'm sure you're excited for this too.
Yeah, although I was talking to you earlier and you recommended that I play some of the other ones. I've only played the trilogy that is on Switch and PS4 right now. Without going into spoilers, is it just that there's like certain characters that are introduced later that are in this one that I wouldn't get? Or
well, I played the Great Ace Attorney, like the first two cases, and there were already like this game is hundreds of years prior to Ace Attorney. Like it is set in the Meiji era of Japan, but there are references that are so cool to pick up on if you know them. And I would just recommend at least playing the fourth one, Apollo Justice, before jumping into this, because Shu Takumi, creator of the series, he wrote the first 4 games. He left Capcom. 5 and 6, Dual Destiny, Spirit of Justice, are not written by him. He came back, he did the crossover with Layton, and he wrote these 2 games. And so I think if you just play that last one that he wrote, number 4, Apollo, then I think you could jump into it. But yeah, that's just getting references and knowing more of the series history, I guess, and more of Phoenix Wright's story also, since he is in Apollo Justice and this is his ancestor. So yeah, I'd recommend it, but you absolutely don't have to. I think this could be a jumping on point for anyone.
And of course, you still have the trilogy on Switch and PS4 if people want to hop in first. But yeah, this was exciting news. Woke up to it yesterday, and I was like, oh man, there it is. But
yeah,
I mean, like
I woke up to it too.
We were kind of waiting for it for a little while. We got another story coming up in a bit about a ratings board leaking something, and this was along with that huge Capcom leak that was a little while ago. There was a leak from the ratings board about this, which made everyone think like, oh, this is incoming. But it's always like super nice to see these games that are stranded in Japan finally make it over, because you wait to a certain point and then you start to worry, like, is there even a value that the company sees in bringing these things over anymore? Like, you wonder how many years after the game's original release. So it's really nice to see them finally be like, hey, there's enough of a value to bring it over. And from what I saw, it looks great. It looks really good having both of the games in the double pack. There's some like...
Do we know a price? I don't know if I saw 40. A price on this.
40 at least on...
Oh my god, are you kidding me? That's so good!
On GameStop, I think, was the only place that's listed a price yet for the physical version.
Oh, that is awesome. That's so awesome.
And
man,
foreseeably, it could be even cheaper if you go digital. Like, we haven't seen... as of now, haven't seen the price for the for like the eShop version or the PlayStation Store version, but to go off of like physical and digital, I could see the digital being 30 and the physical being 40. So for some people, it could be even less. But yeah, it looks really nice. There's that like early bird DLC basically where you get like music and extra like behind the scenes stuff, which looks cool. English and Japanese audio. Interesting to see that I saw people talking about this online that they're keeping his Japanese name.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that. So Ace Attorney for years has tried to pull the wool over eyes of American players, of Western players, and try to make it look like Ace Attorney's set in America.
The Four Kids dub, basically.
Yeah, it's
like, here's
so
the jelly donut.
Japanese that like the fan base has dubbed it like Japanifornia because like it's like, oh, we're in Hollywood, but you're not. You're in Japan. It seems like they're just throwing that out the window. They don't care anymore. They're like, yeah, they're Japanese. Kind of the messaging behind this one.
Yeah. So well, I mean that's probably a good thing moving forward. I feel like that would get more and more weird as the time went on. So that was good. And then here I'm debating which version to get. In Japan, they also have a double pack where you get the first trilogy and this one, and I still don't have the first trilogy on physical, so I'm considering picking that version up, getting like the whole box set thing that they've got going on here. But it is just very exciting that it's getting a physical release and that it's coming out at all in the West.
Yeah, it's my favorite series of all time, and it's been 5 freaking years. And I kind of was worried this series was dead. And then the leak came and kind of gave us all new life. And honestly, like I'm super excited for these games. But another part of the Capcom leak was Ace Attorney 7, which is like this being true, the leak being 100% true, confirms that Ace Attorney 7 is in the works, which is almost more exciting to me. Just knowing that this series isn't dead. And they're just porting these. They're going to keep making new games. Knowing that is just really reassuring for a series that it had started to feel like a while. It had started to feel like too long since we'd heard from Ace Attorney. They just kept pumping up a trilogy everywhere. And I'm like, I have played these so many times. I don't need them anymore. And of course, another trilogy re-release is bundled in with this. But yeah, I can't wait. Most anticipated game, number 1 on my list now. Curious to see how they localize it. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I think that there's some stuff that wouldn't fly over here in terms of Sherlock Holmes, as he's going to be known as in the localization, Sherlock Holmes in the original. He says like some pretty culturally insensitive, racist things. They're played off as jokes because it's like, and I think basically it's like it's a Japanese written game, and it's this Westerner making fun of Japanese people, and he's played off like the bumbling idiot. So like he's an idiot making fun of Japanese people. He's dumb, right? That's the joke. And I just don't know if that would really fly here. I don't know what that would really look like.
So I guess we'll wait and see when it comes out what the localization turns into. Maybe that's what they've been working on these 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason that Sherlock Holmes having to change his name, it being in Japan and them having to keep the Japanese names, all these reasons were stacked up against this game getting localized. I honestly didn't think it was ever going to happen. Which is why I imported a Japanese DS and a Japanese. Now I don't need.
now it's here. But, well, it took some time. Yeah. So you played through some of the other one. Did you ever finish?
Couple cases. No, I didn't finish it because as I was playing it, the leak came.
Okay, that's
when was coming, and I was like, "Oh, sweet."
All right, time to wait.
Yeah. Last thing I want to say on Ace Attorney, the potentially best Ace Attorney is still stranded in Japan, and that's Miles Edgeworth Investigations 2. That game is so good. And that's one I don't think is ever going to see the light of day, which is just a shame because it's amazing.
Of those come out here?
Yeah, the first one did. The second one did not.
What is your theory as to why not?
I think what Capcom learned is that if Phoenix Wright isn't in the name, it doesn't sell. I hope that that's over now because he's not in the name of the Great Ace Attorney. I think that the series has probably gained enough widespread knowledge to know that at this point. But I think at the time, back when it was more niche in the DS era, I mean, Apollo Justice did not sell. Miles Edgeworth 1 did not sell. They did a huge revert back to Phoenix Wright being the face of the series for 5 and 6 on 3DS. But I'm ready to move away from Phoenix. He has had 2 trilogies about him, and I think his story's kind of done at this point.
Well, hopefully this new one, if it assuming it sells well, will prove that it doesn't need Phoenix Wright in the name for it to sell well, because they still have the second trilogy to release, and I could see them doing a double pack of the Miles Edgeworth games, depending on obviously how well everything goes with these.
Yeah,
but
I think it's just tougher to port a DS game versus a 3DS game. It just doesn't look as good. But it's so good. And I've heard that Great Ace Attorney 2 is actually also maybe the best Ace Attorney ever. So I can't wait. Like, I think I'm still processing that new Ace Attorney is coming because it just hasn't been here in so long. Oh, man. Yeah. It's thrilling. And just to know that people like them. Unlike the next thing we're going to talk about, which we have no idea what it's going to look like. And that is Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania was rated on an Australian rating board?
Yeah.
Which means it's a real thing. So new Monkey Ball's coming. We've been talking about what Brian, the announcer, has been saying for months.
It's finally here.
And I thought he said that the title was going to evoke memories of the first 2. I thought it was going to be like Super Monkey Ball Classic. Super Monkey Ball Retro. It's Banana Mania, which evokes memories of Banana Blitz, which sucks, and Banana Splits on Vita, which I haven't played, but I've heard is very bad. So that's really concerning.
They just going back to the well. They're like, hey, that Wii one sold well that one time. let's keep on going back to this. Yeah, we don't really have much to go off of besides the name, but
doesn't bode well in my mind. I think that the banana is a bad sign. I think they might just keep the artistic style and the jumping and the direction they went with Banana Blitz, especially since the HD Banana Blitz just came out on Switch.
Do we know
it's
if
fresh
thing
in people's
sold
mind?
Well? Like,
probably in the double pack with Sonic Mania.
Like, I don't know if the double pack means
Sonic
that
Forces.
it sold like crap or that it sold well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That thing dropped in price so fast.
Yeah, I remember like you bought it and then it had already dropped in price. I think before it came out. Like,
yeah, I could have gotten it to like $10 cheaper. Yeah.
And then it went back up when it launched, and then I swear within like a week or two it was back down to like 30 or 25.
So it was 40 at launch, yeah.
Yeah. And then it went into the double pack, and but
I would be like really worried in a non-rolled out world, but no, I know how good that game is. Like, if we get 2 great Monkey Ball games this year, that's just amazing. But if this ends up being crap, I know that rolled out is sitting there, eventually coming for a console release. But man, did they learn nothing? Did they learn nothing from the backlash about Banana Blitz? Did they learn nothing from the poll they posted saying, hey, what do you want next? And obviously this is just a title. We're just speculating. But to me, Banana Mania just sounds so much like the other ones that I just worry a little bit.
Yeah, and I feel like after doing a remake of Banana Blitz and then doing a new title, if neither of these do well, whether commercially and the reception of these games, then it could probably just the series could just go dormant again. Which would suck. But
yeah,
I guess it may not suck if they just don't realize that they need to go back to the original 2 games for them to do well. If they're just going to keep on smashing their head against the wall with these older style or these newer style games, then what's the point in it still being around, I guess. But
yeah,
gotta wait and see on that.
Yeah, but excited to hear more. Maybe E3, maybe sometime around there.
E3, the big showstopper.
Banana Mania. I don't know. Banana Mania.
Was Sega going to be there?
We don't know yet, but they
right
always
now?
are. I'd be shocked if they didn't have something.
I mean, maybe it'll just be like they'll like piggyback on somebody else, you know? Like
I mean, Sonic Colors
there, but
Sonic Colors remaster, Super Monkey Ball trademark. It feels like they're going to have a couple things that. I mean, we're 2 months out from E3, actually a little less. So that it feels like that would be the time that these things that have kind of been floating around actually are come to fruition. But Sonic Colors is disappointing. Or something, I don't know. Yeah. All right. Speaking of Sonic, some leaked set photos dropped for the sequel for Sonic the Hedgehog, the second movie. So if you don't want to hear some things about this movie,
spoilers,
minor spoilers,
go away for like 2 minutes. I don't think we're gonna talk about this very long.
For
All
2
right,
minutes.
you've been warned. Pictures came out showing like the figures that they used to like stage the CGI characters. There was Sonic, Tails, and the Knucks.
He's
Oh, yeah.
here.
In Sonic 2. Let's go. I think we all assumed Knuckles wasn't going to be here till 3, the path of the classic trilogy of games, but Knuckles is there. He looked really cool. Tails looked like he looks in the games, but Knuckles looked a little bit different.
He kind of looked like his Sonic Boom version. He had like
a little closer
bigger
to that.
shoulders.
Taller. Like he's the same
yeah.
size as Sonic basically, but he's like noticeably buffer just from this model that we've seen. But that's super exciting that Knuckles is there. Also, the 2 human characters, the main couple from the first one, were also pictured in the set. So apparently they're going to be in the sequel too, which I think was kind of unclear. But yeah, they're all coming back. I really liked that movie, as we've talked about on the show. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah,
but
they can
I
keep
thought
it going for part 2.
Yeah, we had to bring up the Knucks.
He's back.
But
now they can't do the reveal like they did in the first one for Tails for a possible third game or third movie with Knuckles. But hey, I'm always
at the rate
happy
they're
to
ripping through characters. It's going to be like Silver the Hedgehog comes in Sonic 3.
It's
Oh
no
my
use.
You know the reveal at the end is going to be Shadow the Hedgehog.
Oh, I mean, probably.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, that would be
They
good.
they got a lot of random characters that they could go through.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be Big the Cat.
Yeah.
Post credit scene of the next for this movie for the next movie. It's also apparently a gun helicopter.
Yeah, gun, which tells me Sonic or Shadow can't be too far behind.
Oh,
So
Shadow's
we'll see.
always got a gun.
The president.
The president of the United States. I think that we're going to see Metal Sonic in Sonic 2. I think that's going to be the villain.
Ooh.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I thought that Metal Sonic was where they were going at the end of Sonic, and they didn't. So I think we're going to see Metal Sonic.
Yeah,
which would be cool. Yeah, all right,
prediction.
but super excited for that. And then we'll talk about the Indie World Showcase. We'll kind of rip through this since it was a while ago at this point. No Silk Song, no Hollow Knight Silk Song, no Sports Story. So a lot of the things people were looking forward to didn't get announced, but still a handful of cool stuff. So I guess we'll just maybe each highlight one thing that we liked from the Indie World. So Zach, you can start.
Yeah. Everything looked decent overall. There were some stuff that caught my eye. One thing I want to highlight that I don't think anyone else is going to talk about was a game called The Longing. The main thing that caught my eye is that it's a bit of a weird concept. The game takes place over 400 days. You're the last guard guarding the tomb of a god who is going to come out of his tomb in 400 days. So you kind of just have to exist until then and like clean and I guess I don't really know, but the draw of the game is that it's in real time. So you actually have to wait 400 days for this to happen the way they made it seem. But the trailer also mentioned that, hey, you don't actually have to wait 400 days to see the end of this game. So I'm like, what does that mean? It just, it was a little confusing. And that's probably why I thought about it so much. Cause I don't really, the draw of the game is 400-day time mark, but maybe you don't actually have to wait that. I don't know who'd be willing to play this game for 400 days.
Yeah,
probably not dedication. Me. Exactly. That's some dedication I do not have. I can't even play Animal Crossing 400 days in a row.
Just buy it, start it, set an alarm for 400 days from the future, and be like, oh, let's see how this thing ends.
Miss it, and then you can never see it again. If it's 401 days, there's just nothing left. The game's just blank.
Oh,
missed everything. That'd be terrible.
You are dead. You starve to death.
Oh, all right. So that caught my eye.
Pick?
There is no game, Wrong Dimension, as of now. The game is out and is getting reviewed really well, but just looks like a really interesting parody game. You know, they showed Link to the Past, and they got a lot of other stuff in there, and those games always look really interesting to me. There have been a couple in the past that I never jumped on, but always looked pretty interesting. So that, and then Skull also looked pretty interesting. I just think the art style of that game looks really good. I guess that game came out last year. A twist on the formula with you being the enemy, and you can swap with different skull heads to different types of characters. So that one looked interesting too.
Yeah, I got a couple. I don't care about brawlers, but I think the Ninja Turtles game just looks awesome.
Does look good.
Sprite work. It just looks really cool. I'm probably not going to play it, but I know there's a lot of TMNT fans. That game looks really cool. Fez is a game I've always wanted to play that feels like a perfect fit on Switch, and that's out now. And then Oxenfree 2. I really liked Oxenfree. I played that with my girlfriend a few years ago, and I haven't played After Party yet, which is their more recent game from the same studio.
Those are
but
the same people.
yeah,
Okay.
Oxenfree 2 was a pretty cool one last thing, even though we didn't get any things we already knew about that we wanted to see. So that was a pretty cool original reveal for the showcase that I thought was a cool ender.
Yeah.
It's a series that I've always had my eye on that I think I would like, but haven't pulled the trigger yet. Is that?
Well, it's almost 2.
Now it's,
It's going to be a series in a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you should play it. It's really short. I mean, if you like Life is Strange, you'll like Oxen. Like, there's some similarities there. Oxenfree is more supernatural. But yeah, just dialogue choices, these angsty teens. Yeah, it's fun.
It sounds like the exact same game.
Yeah. And then we got to talk about something that's, I forgot to put on our news list. Is extremely okay games announced their new game. It is the Celeste and Towerfall, and they announced a new game that is not coming for a long time. It's called Earthblade. They just released a song for it, same composer as Celeste, and a piece of concept art. They're calling it an exploration game, which to me sounds like a Metroidvania, maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, so they are basically saying we're excited to be able to show you something, but it's going to take a long time. They said they previously hoped that their new game would come out within 5 years after Celeste. Celeste is almost 3.5 years old, and now they said there's basically no chance it's coming out within 5 years of Celeste. So
we've still got at least 2 years.
Yeah, it's a ways out, but I don't love Metroidvanias, but I think that the platforming and the action will probably just feel so good because of how good Towerfall and Celeste feel that I'm going to play this for sure. So just something to be on the lookout for if you like Celeste, if you like Towerfall. We'll move on from indies, though, and talk about some Sony news that happened in the last week. Last time we talked to you, we talked about the PS3 and Vita store shutting down, and the backlash was so extreme, Sony has reversed its decision. They are leaving the PS3 and the Vita store up. PSP store, however, is still going to be shut down. So we've had a lot of conversations about game preservation. So Kevin, thoughts on this reversal?
I mean, it's just a decision that they had to make, I think. And I'm glad that there was a big enough uproar that caused them to change that decision, because if it wasn't as big of a deal to a lot of people, they would have just gone ahead and done it anyways. But yeah, it was nice to see them go back on that, especially because they still haven't given you any other option to play these games. You have Xbox being like, hey, you can play all of these games on your Xbox Series X, and PlayStation still hasn't done anything about games that are still stranded on the PS3 or some of their classic titles that haven't made it all the way up to current gen yet in some form. So we don't know how long this decision is going to last. This could be a thing that's like a year or two, and then come maybe 2023, they're like, hey, we're shutting these down again, and we're doing it for sure. But at the very least, this gives Sony more time to hopefully come up with an option for how to preserve these games going forward, because at some point, they're going to take the stores down. That's just going to happen at some point. But hopefully it gives them some time to come up with an option to bring these games somehow to current gen, and it gives people more time who own these consoles to go back and pick these games up.
Yeah, I think that Vita is still probably in trouble in terms of long-term preservation. But I think PS3 games, I think we'll probably see those drop on PS5 at some point. I think Vita's just a little bit tougher.
But one of the big things about the PS3 store is that that's where you can buy most digital PS2 games, like that you can't buy on PS4 or PS5.
Legacy titles.
Because once this dropped, I had to go onto my PS3 store and buy Castlevania Lament of Innocence, because I didn't think I'd ever have it, because I don't want to play that on PS2.
Did you buy it?
I actually did buy it, yeah.
Nice.
So I have that hopefully for a while. But yeah, so that was my main concern when this dropped, and I'm not going to give Sony any credit for reversing this decision, because they basically just did it save face, and that's not really a consumer friendly move because they made the wrong decision in the first place. So hopefully we've got this store around for a little while longer. Just not holding out a lot of hope for better Sony decisions in the future.
Yeah, so it's like an Xbox One era sized decision, like change.
Absolutely.
And like you saw the repercussions of the move right away, where you saw some of those random titles just skyrocket in price, like that weird collection of indie titles that that skyrocketed to like $200 or $300 and stuff like that. That stuff happens instantly when news of stores shutting down comes out. So for people who bought that game for way too much money, sorry, I guess the value's probably going to go down a little bit. But yeah, for game preservation, this is a move that they needed to make, and I'm really hoping that sometime in the near future they're going to announce some sort of move going forward that allows people to play, at the very least, a great majority of these games on their PS5 in some way. Yeah,
absolutely. So yeah, happy to see that change. Happy I don't have to have a spending spree this summer. And I can be a little choosier here going forward on that store. But yeah, happy they made that change. More PlayStation news. Big April update for PlayStation 5 brought expanded storage options and some other features. So they added USB storage, so you can just transfer a game to that. You can't play it off USB storage. We're still waiting for the expanded storage, which is supposed to come later this summer. It's still not a thing.
Really bizarre to me that you had to wait that long for the option to have a storage option that you can't play off of. How is that not there at the start of having just a USB storage that is not an SSD? Like, how did you have to wait 6 months for that to be an option when you have Xbox, where yes, it is a very expensive option to have their expandable storage, but it was an option at launch. And we still don't know when the next one's coming. We don't know when SSD, when the expandable storage for that is coming. So hopefully that's coming.
I think it's supposed to come late in the summer, like July. I think I saw somewhere. But yeah, I need it. I had to install 2 games. I installed MLB The Show, and sports games are huge. And I had to install It Takes Two also.
How big is the show?
80, I think. Man. Yeah, pretty big.
And that doesn't even sound big anymore to me. I'm like, 80, that's not that bad.
When you put it in the realm of, it's got, 650 gigs, right? Or something like that. Like, there's 6 games, you can fit 6 of those. And then, it's 7, I guess. 7 games. That is crazy. Yeah, that SSD expansion can't come soon enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was there any other notable things that you've noticed as the one PS5 gamer?
I haven't used it yet, but they added cross-generation share play. So share play on PS4 when you can actually take control of someone else's PS4 remotely. Oh. And Zach and I actually ran into this.
Yeah,
I wanted him to help me with a Hitman 3 level stuck, and I have the PS5 version, so we couldn't do it. But now with this update, we should try that because now we can.
We should. I didn't even realize that was part of the update. That's super cool.
Yeah, so you can try PS5 games from a PS4 now. If you know someone that has a PS4.
How does that... Wait, well, I guess as of now, a lot of the games have PS4 counterparts. So I guess for now, I don't know how
But it's just PS5 a streaming thing.
Okay.
It's just it's still just running off the PS5 that you could be thousands of miles away from. Yeah. It's just streaming to you.
Just your internet connection.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stadia.
Stadia 2. It's a Stadia.
Yeah, but that's a big new update, though. Days Gone. Zach, you still playing Days Gone?
Let's go. About Days Gone?
You still playing it?
I am actually still playing it. I haven't beaten it yet.
Okay. Well, the director says if you love a game, you should buy it at full price. Says don't complain if a game.
Here's the thing:
if it wasn't supported at launch.
Come from Zach, who got it for $0 on PS Plus.
We clearly don't agree. Because the vast majority of games I buy, I don't know if I like them because I haven't played them yet. How are you supposed to know if you like a game before you buy it? And I don't control the price of games. Games go down and I just buy them whenever I either want to play them or I feel like enough time has gone by and I have some free time. I'm not going to pre-order a game that I think I'm going to love. If I've got 8 other games I've already owned in my backlog that I paid $20 a piece for, it's unfeasible. It shouldn't have to be on us. I get the games have to sell well, but there's just a lot of factors to it. And I don't think that blaming people for doing the smart thing is the way to go about it.
Yeah.
And now in
blame Sony. How about that?
Where you're paying $70 for a game, that that decreases the amount of new games that a lot of people can feasibly get in their economic situation. Like, I think these they have to understand that there's only so many games that people can buy at full price. And coming from someone who plays a lot of games in a year, it would not really be economically feasible for me to buy a lot of these games at their full MSRP, $60, or coming up now, $70. Like, it just wouldn't be feasible. The only way that I can play a lot of these games is to wait for some price drops. For specific games that I really want to play day one, I'll pick them up. I'll pick them up day one. I pick up all the Yakuza games day one because I love those games, and certain ones that I'm either playing with friends or just, I guess, Nintendo games that don't drop in price too often. Sure, I'll pick them up on launch, but man, there's only so many games that you can get at that price before you're spent, and you need to wait for those $30 sales or $20 sales, or maybe they're on PS Plus and you pick them up then. And then you've got the whole first game in a series. He's like, yeah, if you love the game, pick it up at full price. I'm like, how in the world am I supposed to know if I love it? It's the first game in a series that's not going to be a series anymore, but it's the first game. How in the world do I know what it's going to be like, or that I like it?
So he was asked about that as a follow-up, and he said, I'm just saying don't complain if a game doesn't get a sequel if it wasn't supported at launch. It's like God of War got whatever number of sales at launch, and Days Gone didn't. I'm just speaking for me personally as a developer. I don't work for Sony. I don't know what the numbers are. It's kind of ironic that Days Gone is it's the director of that game, because that game was broken as heck on launch, and it's like, okay, or I could wait a year until you've patched it and get it for half price. It's like, don't ship a
value proposition is so much better on that. And I feel like that's the case for all, like, people have gotten burned so many times from buying games at full $60 price, and the game is unplayable at launch, or has so many little bugs and glitches, and then they look,
Cyberpunk,
Fallout 76. People who bought that on launch and supported that for $60 got a broken mess that was discounted to $30 within a month.
That was almost Zach.
That was almost Zach. So I feel like precedent has been set for so many people where if you're talking about the AAA space of games, if it's not a series that you like, for example, if you really love the games and they're going to be good, then you'll probably pick them up on launch. But especially for a new title in an age where so many games come out broken, why in the world would you risk your $60 on that game? You just wait. I don't know. Yeah. It sounds like the people, he left Ben's studio, and someone who's still working there came out later and said, hey, if you got it full price, if you got it on sale, PS Plus, whatever, we're glad you played it, and we're glad that you experienced it. Having to save face, which sucks because this guy who said this stuff isn't even there anymore. But they're gonna have to kind of deal with that stigma of those comments.
Yeah, it's just really weird. I'm trying to think of another example. It's like, if you love a movie, go opening night. It's like so many people just watch movies on Netflix. Like, I don't know. It's just such a weird thing, and it's just interesting because games have such a higher point of entry than other things sometimes. Like, most people who watch TV shows don't even pay for that TV show directly. You watch it on Amazon Prime or on Hulu or on Netflix, and it's like, you didn't give any money directly to them. It doesn't mean that your love of that piece of work is any less because you didn't pay the suggested retail price at launch. It's just a stupid statement.
Yeah. All power to people who need to wait for sales because they just don't have the money for it, or the people or the people that realize that, hey, this game is a broken mess right now and it is not worth my $60. Yeah. Weird statement.
I think that's going to wrap us up for news this week.
All
right. So we're done with news for the week. It was a long trek of news. We were gone.
2 weeks worth. Yeah.
Now we have a long trek of talking about what we've been playing over the last couple weeks, which is probably quite a bit. We'll start with Kevin. I know you've been playing a few games.
Yeah, 13 Sentinels to start. I've been chipping away at that. I'm almost done. I've got a little bit of story content left. I finished up a lot of the characters. There's still, I think, like 4 or 5 characters left. I've enjoyed where the story has gone as it's pulled back the curtain on some things and shown off some stuff. It was interesting to me because I'm so used to to games and series having that like whoa moment, like that's when everything changes, or like that's when you like figure out like, oh, it wasn't this, but it was this, or like it kind of like changes what you thought about the story. And I feel like with 13 Sentinels, with the way it's set up, where you're like experiencing all of these different characters' stories at different times, and there's not a specific set way that you can experience them. Like you pick the character that you want to play, and you kind of like work your own way through the story. I feel like there's a bunch of different points where it slowly pulls it back, where you're like, oh, so it's this. And then there's a new piece of information that comes back later that kind of changes that. And you're like, oh, so it's this. And it was kind of interesting.
That's
It
cool.
was a little bit different than what I'm used to, where I was waiting for that big moment where it was like, oh, here it is, the surprise or something. You didn't really get that. It was more so just like slowly giving you all of this information where you're piecing things together and you're like, oh, okay, so this is how everything's working. So I've been enjoying the story a lot. Game. What?
You don't love the game. You didn't buy it full price.
No, I didn't. I bought it for $30 on sale.
Oh, so you only half love the game?
Yeah, I only half love it. Because, okay. yeah, you know. Can't love a game unless you spend $60/$70 on it, or spend $100 on the digital deluxe version.
So are your characters in the game overpowered because you did all the story stuff? I know you said that you got like power-ups by doing story stuff. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did it account for it?
So you do get meta chips for finishing story content. You get like, I think 5,000 meta chips for finishing a bit of the story. But the way I also did the combat was that you can upgrade the amount of chips that you receive at the end of like combat. And so there were points where I was finishing a one mission in the combat, and I got like 60,000 meta chips. So I realized later on that the amount that you get through the story, it's some, and you come back after doing a bunch of the story and you have a bunch to use, but you get nearly that amount from one of the combat encounters. So I wasn't super overpowered, and I'm also playing on normal, so it's not like super easy. There's like an easy difficulty for people who just want to experience the story, a normal difficulty, and a hard difficulty as well. And I've been enjoying the combat too, learning about how all the different Sentinels work. I like the idea that they've got like 4 different types of Sentinels. They've got one for long range, one for close combat, one that can that has a lot more mobility, and they all have like different moves that they can use. And it shows you some of the Deimos, the creatures that are going to be showing up in a certain map, so you can tailor it to fit for that certain Deimos. But you also have to make sure that you can only use a character 2 times before they need to like sit out around and rest. So you also have to like manage who's coming in at what time. So there's some strategy there that I've been enjoying. Cool. But by next week I should have it done and have final thoughts on that. Although I don't know how much the final thoughts will change because it is so story heavy. But yeah, I've been enjoying it a lot. I would highly recommend it. As for other stuff, played more It Takes Two. Still a very good time. Been enjoying that a lot. Still, like I was talking about the last time, well, I guess a couple of weeks ago playing it, I just really appreciate the different gameplay. That's what everyone has basically said, but it's true. Like, every single time you're doing something different, and it always keeps things fresh and fun. There's a lot of games where in the first like 3 or 4 hours you're really enjoying the gameplay loop that it provides, but then you're doing the same thing after that, and then it's just like, all right, this is getting kind of dull. But here there is something new every 20-30 minutes as you're going to a new area or doing something new. And just the way that they utilize multiplayer of one person doing one thing and one person doing the other, and how seamlessly that works, despite the fact that they're changing things up so often, that they still find fun ways to incorporate both players into the game is really good. So I've been enjoying that a lot. Only had one more session, I think, since I last talked about it, but that's been fun. And then quickly,
Zach and I started that too, so we should probably just jump in and talk about that.
Hop in on your It Takes Two thoughts. You guys have finally joined in since Monster Hunter's done.
Absolutely.
For now, I guess.
Yeah, we're having fun with it. I don't know. I'm not as in love with it as I wanted to be. Like, I love A Way Out. I think A Way Out is just amazing, and I was really excited about like this fantasy, like imaginary world idea, because I thought they could just blow it up and just make it even crazier. And to some extent, they do. And the gameplay is really fun. I don't know. I think all the puzzles are really, really simple. Like, I feel like Zach and I, we walk into a room and know what to do immediately. Like just instantly, you know what to do. And there's just not a lot of thought required in all these mechanics. Like I think about like a Nintendo game and how it will introduce a mechanic and evolve it until by the end you're playing with all these different rules that have been built up over time. And in It Takes Two, it's like it's just the first level of that. And then they rip it away, which I appreciate because it is fun to rotate. That's just the kind of game it is, moving from thing to thing. But I wish that there was more progression of an idea within each level than what we get. Because I feel like it's like 5 puzzles of equal difficulty. Instead of like really making you learn how to use these things that you're doing, it's like, no, it kind of stays the same. And then it's like, okay, now we'll do this with a new mechanic. And it's still really fun and I like it. But I just wish that it built on itself with its ideas before it recycled onto something.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. And I pretty much agree with everything you said. But still, I find it to be a very fun game. Keeping things fresh is a good way to build this type of game. Every time we recycle a new thing, I haven't really super disliked any section of the game that we've been to. I think we're about halfway through the game-ish.
Yeah, probably.
We've had a lot of different types of gameplay at this point, so we've gone through a lot. So there's definitely a lot to keep you entertained and a lot of fresh ideas. So no harshness on that. One of the big things that Logan and I were complaining about as we were playing it, like he brought up, we're not super attached to the story or the main two characters. Like he said, in A Way Out, we were absolutely 100% invested in who we were playing as and what was going on. This one, the story is a lot less focused on. It's a lot more about the gameplay and the spectacle of things. Your little dolls in a massive world, and that's great. It looks visually very, very good. And it does make for a lot of unique situations and opens it up to new gameplay styles. So it was a good call on that part, but it does take us out of it a little bit when these two characters are just arguing over stupid crap the entire time that we don't care about. And one of Logan's least favorite things is that they constantly say each other's names in an unrealistic way.
All the time!
Like the girl May, every other sentence she ends it with Cody, and I'm like, how often do you really say another person's name when you're hanging out with them?
Also, I mean, maybe this isn't for every couple, but I feel like my parents at the very least, they don't really say each other's names very often either.
Never.
Like, they always have like their own. It varies based on the person, but I feel like they always have something to call the other person that's not necessarily their name. So
yeah, that really bothers me.
Weird.
I think the story is so throwaway. I wish it wasn't there. Like I want to skip the cutscenes. I hold down circle to skip them. Both players have to. Zach won't do it. I was like, I don't need this. I don't need to see this story. I think it's really mediocre. It's like, it's the same every time. It's like, they see a thing, and it's like a toy, and it's like, oh, why'd you buy that for our daughter? And it's like, oh, well, why did you do this for our daughter? And it's just this constant bickering, and that's it.
I want to say that his response is always, I didn't know the toy would come alive and try to kill us, which is a valid reason.
Fair play. And he's just like, I keep telling you that.
Yeah.
And it's like, in platformers like this, I don't need a story. Like, the gameplay is why I'm there. A Way Out, they make you care about those characters, and it is integral to the point of that game. And it's like, the point of this game is fun, wonky gameplay in all these colorful areas. I don't need the story. So yeah, I like it. It is not the awesome follow-up to A Way Out I wanted it to be, but it's still a good time. I mean, if it's got local, it's got online with the friend pass, so you have someone you want to play with, I would still recommend it. Just don't go in expecting as good of a story as A Way Out.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. The gameplay is really what carries this thing. Yeah, and then every time the sentient book shows up, I'm like, oh boy.
I hate him.
Go.
Yeah,
it is a little annoying.
And it sucks because A Way Out story was so good, and it set the bar so high where that game wouldn't be nearly as good if it had a similar plot structure where I didn't care about the characters, because so much of that game was built around getting attached to your specific character. And here it's just kind of weird that it's not. again, I think the gameplay warrants it enough to pick it up, just because there's not too many multiplayer games like it out there, and I feel like you're still gonna have a really fun experience in a multiplayer setting like it. But
for sure.
It is just kind of weird that the story is really just not that great.
And I've heard the story in Brothers is A Tale of Two Sons is really good. I've heard
Played that game. It was an incredible story.
Yeah,
it was absolutely amazing.
So it's just kind of a misstep here. It's more focused on the gameplay, which is fine. I'm surprised at how much I dislike the story, how much I actually think it detracts from my experience.
I just want to say real quick that the guy who made Brothers, who worked on these two games, was like the creative director. The way Brothers was set up is that it was one single player, and each character was a joystick. So you had to control each character using a different joystick. I'm glad they made it multiplayer required, because that was annoying. That was so annoying.
Hurt your brain a little bit, like, oh, which one's which?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to say is there's an awesome A Way Out reference really early in the game. So if you saw that, it's super cool. But there's a story beat that I won't spoil. It's shocking. Like there's something that happens that it was very disturbing to
Was it the mini game?
No, it's not a mini game.
Okay. It's a pretty important story beat, so we shouldn't spoil it.
Okay.
We'll talk about it after the show, see if you've gotten there yet, Kev.
Okay.
But my goodness. So that's all I want to say is this is like a kiddie story. Like there's some pretty disturbing things in there.
Okay. And
yeah, I don't really know who it's for, but yeah.
Another big thing about this game is the competitions between the two players. They're spread out throughout each level, and you can find them.
So you guys have probably gotten a little bit farther. Are they still like hideously like overmatched to one player? I feel like at least half of them are like that.
Some of them are pretty unbalanced, and overall they're kind of hit or miss. Some of them are balanced, but it's weird because the one you brought up, I believe 2 weeks ago, the hammerhead one where you what's it called, whack-a-mole?
Yeah.
You said that the person with the mallet was way overpowered.
Yeah, I had that.
I won as the person without the mallet, because I figured out a way to cheese it, so it felt super unbalanced on my end at that point.
How did you cheese it?
So I feel like it was really unbalanced on both ends. So the way you have to do it is because you have to stick your head out of the hole, and you get a point after, I want to say, like 3/4 of a second. So you have to stick out of the hole for a little while.
Yeah.
And that gives the other player an opportunity to smack you. Right. But if they hit you like before you're for like half a second, it doesn't register. So he could like smack me as soon as I pop out, but it wouldn't work, and I could like duck back in.
It's like
before
he
it would
had
register.
half a second of invincibility, and then there's a 1/4 second where he's vulnerable, and then he scores. And so I was hitting him instantly, right away, every time, and it wasn't.
So what you have, and then what you have to do after that is you literally just kind of circle up, down, left, right, up, down, left, right, and then at one random point you just stay up for an extra 1/4 of a second on one of them, and it's enough to get a point. So in the end, I just had more points.
Yeah,
it just felt super weird and unbalanced.
I don't really like the mini games much either.
Yeah, the mini games are, well, that's probably because I've won 90%.
Yeah, I'm on like a 4-game win streak. I'm coming.
He's
back.
on like a 2-game win streak. It's whatever.
4 games. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm having fun though.
It's a fun time. It's not as solid all around as A Way Out is, where I think every part of that works. The gameplay is solid. The story is great. The mini games are fun. Whereas this, I think the gameplay, I think the gameplay is overall better than A Way Out, just overall. But I think the story is just not. I just don't really care.
Yeah.
And then the mini games are very hit or miss. So I think A Way Out is the better overall package.
Oh yeah.
But it's still a good time. I would still.
Anything else you've been playing, Kevin? I know we got off on a tangent.
Yeah, I'll not dwell on it too long since I haven't played too much of it, but I picked up the Mafia Trilogy because it was on sale as part of the spring sale, and just booted up the original one, the Mafia Definitive Edition, that came out a little while ago. I will say, living in Japan for almost 2 years now, and driving in Japan for almost 2 years, my brain still hurts on like swapping back over to the U.S. Style of driving. So like you're a taxi driver, and so one of the first missions is like, you got to drive this old lady safely to her destination, and I'm just getting into the wrong lane and driving like up into traffic and stuff, and I'm just like, oh god. So it like hurts my brain a little bit on that. But yeah, I only played like a couple of missions, but I will say that I really like the setting of like 1930s New York, basically, in the Prohibition era, driving all of these like old cars. I think that it's got style down pat. And I've heard that the story is really good, and it's already setting itself up really well of just like a very traditional mafia type story. So not too much to say on that because it's really just been driving and some story. But I will also say that it's very interesting the amount of options it gives you for like driving. One, you can skip it entirely if you don't want to. Like any non-story segment driving, you can just skip. And they also give you options for automatic or manual, and they give you options for if you want a more realistic style where cops will pull you over for speeding, running red lights. Like they give you a bunch of options for
cool.
driving. So I put it the more realistic for like the driving physics of like taking longer to do turns, but I made it so I could speed and stuff because I felt like that would be a little bit too much. But I think it'd be really fun to just like go back into that world when you're done free mode and just like drive around and try and follow the rules. I remember doing that on other games, and it's just interesting that they have that as an option.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So you can actually follow the rules or don't and try and run from the cops. But once 13 Sentinels is done, I think I'll hop onto that, at least the first one.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool.
Logan, nothing else to go over. I know you talked about MLB It Takes Two.
Just M hunts, but nothing new to say.
Awesome. Then I think we'll wrap up the show with a few more thoughts on Days Gone.
Yes.
I've put a little bit more time into it.
Joseph St.
Yes,
Cloud.
I think we'll be ending every show for the foreseeable future with a little bit more of Days Gone.
But you're not a true fan. You hate this game.
I'm not even a fan at all.
Yeah.
I got
PS
this game
Plus,
for free
you're
on
a
PS
scrub.
Plus, so I hate this game. I'm just kidding. Okay.
Do you hate
Overall, I'm a few more hours into it. I haven't had a lot of time to put into it. I think it's fun gameplay wise. Mechanically, it's very similar to games that I like, third-person shooters with a stealth element. I like the zombies are set up pretty strategically. That makes stealthing a more viable option. I love that. There's a few inconveniences that I really dislike. You have to be by a bed or your motorcycle in order to save, and usually I'm not. And in order to recall your motorcycle, because you can just leave it in the middle of nowhere, and I do that a lot. So in order to get your bike back, you have to go to a settlement and or a mechanic, and they can call your bike back. And I don't even bother to do that. So I have to every time I want to save, I have to haul to a bed across the map. I'm like, all right, it's whatever. It is what it is. But the missions are fun and varied. It's got Far Cry elements where there's a bunch of camps that I think you can befriend. Maybe a little Fallout in there too. So that's good. There's a lot of stuff that I haven't done yet. I'm a handful of hours in, and I haven't come across a horde yet. I don't know why. I thought it would be a bigger thing, but there hasn't really been any massive hordes that I've had to run from yet. And I that was one of the big draws of the game. So I'm a little curious as to when one of those will finally show up. So look forward to that. But overall, I don't really care super about the story yet. Not a whole lot's happened. It's really nothing more to say on that front. Just not a lot's happened in terms of story or character development. I don't really care about anyone. Let's hope that changes. I think Deacon St. John, aka Joseph St. Cloud, will be one of my favorite video game characters of all time by the end of this.
I do not think that.
Which point I will donate $60 to the Studio Bend development team to show my full love for the game.
There you go. Yeah, to upgrade yourself to true fan status.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a
list. Exactly.
Absolutely.
That's pretty much my thoughts so far. So I think that's really all I've had a chance to play this week, other than It Takes Two and some M hunts.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard. I mean, that seems to be a general consensus. The story's fine. It's nothing great. Yeah. And I think I also remember hearing that other people were also surprised that the hordes didn't come in earlier.
Yeah, I was expecting one right away, but it just hasn't happened yet.
That was the big thing of Days Gone, was these huge hordes. So hopefully when it does show up, it'll be worth it.
Terrifying. Hopefully.
All right. I think that is going to do it for us. Any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up in our new time slot?
Ace Attorney makes me happy, and that's all. Makes me very happy.
Ace Attorney will make me happy in the future whenever I decide to get around to it.
Don't worry, Zach. I'm sure you'll get it at full price.
Yep.
You've missed so many of these sales that at a certain point you're just going to get it for full price. And
at least 10.
He's got to love it. He's got to love it all the way.
Oh, right. Yeah. Crap. I'm not a true fan. I bought that on sale. Dang it. All right, I don't know if
You're sale fan.
I
if I have
bought
enough
them on
value as a
free
fan.
and for sale on Facebook.
Wow, that is like
I'm not a-
like a negative fan. Giving the money to
Yes,
somebody else. Disgusting. All right, that is going to do it for us on this week's episode of OD Games. Like we mentioned at the start of the show, we're on Thursdays now, not Fridays. So change the calendars. We're here every Thursday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any other podcast streaming services that you may use. Our website, Ode to Games, also has it as well, odegames.com, so you can check out the audio version of the podcast there. The video version is on YouTube at Ode to Games. So if you want to check out the video version of the podcast, that is there for you. We're on Twitter, at Ode to Games, Twitch, Ode to Games as well. We'll come back to that sometime in the future. You can send an email to odegamescast@gmail.com. For Logan and Zach, I'm Kevin. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.